What's up, Filmalytics family? Welcome to the first ever Filmalytics debate forum where we debate the hottest fantasy football topics from around the NFL. Today's debate will be on Kadarius Toney and whether or not he will finish as a top 24 wide receiver. These debates will be quick hitting and to the point and will be taken parts in three different segments. They'll have opening statements. The second segment, I will present a prompt to our contestants, and then we'll finally have closing statements. So with that being said, contestant number one, Chad, will Kadarius Toney finish as a top 24 wide receiver in 2022?
Of course he will, and let me tell you why. As a rookie, he was 17th in the NFL in yards per route run with 2.13. He was 7th in targets per route run with 29%, and he was 6th in targets per snap with 19.1%. These are extremely efficient numbers, and they're really telling and predictive of breakouts because they tell us how effective this player was when he was on the field. So part of the knock on Toney, I'll just throw it out there because I know what you're going to say, Andrew. He was hurt a lot. Well, when he was on the field, they made him a priority, gave him the ball. He had a huge impact on the game. So these stats are a little more predictive than like target share because that takes every snap into account. This tells us how much this player was involved when they were on the field. Not to mention the Giants have a pretty ambiguous wide receiver room. It's open for somebody to claim that wide receiver one role there. And they got an upgrade from Jason Garrett to Brian Dable calling the plays. So I'm all in on Toney this year.
Andrew.
Man, it's simple. You're playing Toney versus the field. I'm going the field every time, especially when we're talking top 24. All the receivers last year that were top 24 played in 16 or 17 games except for 2. We're talking about Godwin, talking about T. Higgins. As you said earlier, Toney has those injury history in it. I'm going to be able to dig into that in just a second. But if you're betting on that, he's already projected missing 3 to 4 games this year. That's going to put him right there where he's got to be top tier athlete, which he may be, but it's a big risk playing with less games than all the other guys, most likely throughout the season. There's also an issue with the chemistry across the whole offense, not just for Toney himself. Is that team going to even be able to get touchdowns? How many? Because top 24 guys last year, let's face it, he needs at least 6 or more touchdowns. Only 4 players, and that was Mooney, DJ Moore, Amon-Ra, and Godwin last year that were able to get 4 or 5 touchdowns and still be top 24. I'm out.
We've heard some rumblings that Brian Daboll might move to Tyrod Taylor midseason if Daniel Jones struggles, and Daniel Jones did have a very strong start to this year during the preseason. The Giants invested a second-round pick in Kentucky wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson, and they're hoping Kenny Golladay can have some sort of year 2 resurgence in this Giant offense. Where does Kadarius Toney fit in regards to target share? Andrew.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. He should probably be the top option, if not the second option when it comes to target share. But the issue is all of those stats that we've been mentioning was him playing in the slot. Wan'Dale's now coming in. He should be the slot guy that's going to push Toney to the outside. And we just haven't seen the production yet. You talked about Tyrod Taylor. Man, that's what I was going to talk about, this offense and the injuries it's faced. The team as a whole has already had 35 guys that are on the PUP or the IR, and it's already not even the start of 2022. You combine that with his injuries, like per game, his target share may look pretty good, but overall for the season, it's going to be iffy, especially if you got Tyrod Taylor, who already was struggling in the preseason finale because the offensive line is missing a couple guys, and there's a chance that that injury could just keep taking a toll throughout the season.
Chad, your response.
Well, I didn't realize Andrew was a doctor. That's good to know. I can just see him for my injuries because you can apparently predict them and you know when they're going to happen. The fantasy football community thinks they can predict injuries. I'm here to tell you, you cannot. Also, rookies do tend to get banged up adjusting to the life of the NFL. Going into their second year, getting their body right, eating right, all of those things, that can really improve a player staying on the field. Also, I care a lot more about points per game. Of course, I want my guy to be on the field, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. You also said that Toney plays in the slot, and now Wan'Dale is going to force him outside. Toney lined up in the slot 45% of the time last year. He played outside the rest, and he looked great on the outside. Wan'Dale is a completely different player. Wan'Dale is specifically in the slot. That's why they drafted him, to replace Sterling Shepard. They want Kadarius Toney on the outside. Dable's going to use him the way that he used Stephon Diggs.
And finally, our closing statements. Andrew, 1 minute.
All right, so ultimately, it just comes down to Tony's ADOT was 98th across the entire receiver. I was talking about 6.5. Most of that did come in the slot. Heck, 79.2% of his targets were in that short underneath area. If Wandale isn't there, he's most likely going to take that. Only 11 of his 57 total looks were actually 10-plus yards downfield. Being pushed outside, most of those guys do not work the underneath as much as a slot receiver would. So you're banking on some big adjustments going into this year for the Giants.
And Chad, your closing statement. 1 minute.
He still was number 5th in target rate versus man, 32.5% target rate versus man coverage. He's going to face a lot of man coverage on the outside and see those targets. He was also electric because 19th in target separation, number 1 in juke rate. When he gets the ball in his hands, he's very good. He was, again, 17th in yards per route run. This team, it might not be the best offense going to Tyrod, Daniel Jones, whatever it is, but they are in dire need of a number 1 target. And like I said, we've seen Brian Dable do this. He took Stephon Diggs to a whole new level. He can unlock these guys, and that's a big part of this offense. We've seen Kenny Golladay can't separate. What can he do, really? They are in desperate need of a number 1 receiver who can win on the outside. Tony's route running was his biggest ding coming into the league. Go back and watch the tape last year. Go back and watch him turn Trayvon Diggs around, put him in the spin cycle. Tony's route running was very, very strong as a rookie, and it's only going to get better.
Well, will Kadarius Toney finish as a top 24 wide receiver? Chad says yes. Andrew says no. We got 17 games to find out. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Comment on below who you think won this debate, and just let us know what you think about Kadarius Toney. Do you think he's going to finish as a top 24 wide receiver? And that's going to do it for us on our first ever Filmalytics debate forum. Join us next time when we debate something else that probably will pique your interest.